Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports is Ordered. And tonight, we're going to play a little GM in the spirit of the NFL Combine, aka some people call it the slave auction. Then we're going to get into a little NBA, because you know the NBA season's going on, but with a little bit of a twist. We're going to incorporate some past into the present. So stay tuned. And of course, as always, I have with me the even killed VA born, representing New Jerusalem, Quebec, Millville, Brick City. You know what I'm saying? With the stinking ass. Dedicated father, devoted airman and company man. He is Mr. Logic. And I am the unorthodox. You would think I was a southpaw because I always go left. Statistician.
True indeed.
2, 5. And of course, we wouldn't be Sports Reports as Ordered if we didn't get this thing started with Get It Off My Chest. So we're going to start it a little bit like this. Sometimes I hate being right. I know last year I talked about March Madness and everything, and I said, sometimes I like to be wrong because March Madness is entertaining when I'm wrong because Cinderella's on the scene. But this time I really wish I was wrong because I was on Cups in the Gang on Friday night, and we were talking about the teams that had a chance to win the NBA title. And I said, and of course, this was the day after the Clippers blew the lead to the Lakers. And I said, I want to believe in the Clippers. But the problem is not that they get injured. They just get injured at the wrong times. There's never a good time to get injured. But they always get injured a month before the playoffs, 2 weeks before the playoffs, into the playoffs. And then, of course, the very next day after I make that statement, Russell Westbrook breaks his hand. You know, like the jinx is real. So I apologize, Clipper Nation. If there is a Clipper Nation, because I heard half of y'all were Warrior fans a few years ago. But as I was looking at this, he broke his hand back in 2014. Usually about a 4-week recovery. So that puts him at about 8 games left in the regular season if we're following that timetable. So I'm just hoping and praying that not another Clipper falls.
Hey, I mean, it's tough, but like I said, I think Russ can go out there with one hand and still be effective. He just seems like one of those guys that just will figure out a way to do it. Just a gritty player. So I think he'll figure out a way to do it. But I want him at full strength because I like having these debates. Like we had a little pre-meeting. We talked about some NBA stuff. But I had a coworker come up to me today at work saying, "Hey man, I heard what you said about Kawhi." I'm like, listen, I'm not knocking Kawhi. I don't like to knock players just to like elevate another one. I just like to keep it, I like to keep it logical. So LeBron passed the 40,000 point marker. No one in the NBA has ever done it. Granted, he was already an all-time scorer, so obviously him getting the 40,000 points is a no-brainer. No one's ever done it. But somehow it's been given like a negative like connotation to it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Someone achieving something in a sport that's never happened before should not be marred with just negativity. Like I saw a clip from 1999 baseball. Fernando Tatis Sr. hit 2 grand slams in the same inning. It was like 1 in 700 billion chances that happened. He hit 2 grand slams in the same inning. if we had the internet in 1999, they'd be like, well, if the Dodgers didn't pitch so bad, he wouldn't get an opportunity. That's irrelevant. The fact this man hit 2 grand slams in 1 inning, that's dope. Applaud the dope thing. LeBron scored over
Mhm.
40,000 points in the NBA. Applaud the dope thing. Stop trying to bring in other players or bring in other arguments or say that somebody else is going to break this record when no one else ever done it before. No one's even really
Mhm.
close. So it's like, stop trying to make it all negative when somebody accomplishes something. Just applaud the accomplishment. Oh, he still lost the
Right.
game. Yeah, you lose games. Games like no season's going 82-0 and then a breeze through the playoffs 98-0. Like that's never happened.
Right.
So you're
Right.
going to lose games, but getting to 40,000 points should be applauded. And it shouldn't be from LeBron fans. Don't be out here posting the memes. I saw one with like that big mountain Billy goat and like a skinny farm goat. It was like the real goat, and it was like Jordan. I was like, cut it out. And then the people were talking about like, oh well, he's still not the goat. Like that's not the conversation. The conversation is about somebody scored 40,000 points. If somebody came on the game and scored 82 points and they scored more points than Kobe, you shouldn't be like, well, Kobe did it at home and as a Laker, that's more important than doing it as a member of the Thunder. Like that's silly. Just applaud the fact that somebody scored 82 points. That's a dope thing. So we gotta enjoy these players because soon they're gonna retire. And me and Mike will get into a more depth of our conversation later about like the money and the contracts, and you might not be seeing these guys for too long. So stand up and clap when these guys do dope stuff because it's not gonna happen again. No one's gonna get close. And a lot of these records that are the Steph Curry 3-point record, maybe, but he looks like he's gonna play a few more years. And
Yeah.
it might get to the point where all he does is shoot threes. Like he won't even go in the
Yeah.
paint. Like when he's like
Yeah.
37. So he might just be out there just getting screens from a 37-year-old Draymond in the elbows, and he's gonna be shooting threes, and that record's gonna be crazy high. So, like I said, 40,000 points is a big deal. Just applaud it. It's that simple. You don't have to hate on it. Just applaud it.
Especially when you consider that he's fourth all time in assists as well. Like it's just nuts. Like more
Yeah.
assists than Magic Johnson, more points than Michael Jordan. Like I always say, I always have to preface it. I'm not even a LeBron guy, but you got to take your hat off to him.
I
You
would
know what
not
I'm
wear your
saying?
headset.
You just got to. But even as I was thinking about that, as you were saying that, I could imagine, somebody being like, yeah, he scored 82. Yeah, I'll give him credit when he scores 62 and 3/4. You know what
Yeah.
I'm
I'll give him credit
saying?
when you got to take him out of the game. What?
You know what I'm saying? Where his rings at? You know what I'm saying?
Like I was watching the video earlier. This influencer, this one guy, he'll he'll make jokes about influencers when they say ridiculous stuff. Like the entrepreneur influencers are his main target. And the guy said it's easier to make $1 million than it is, or it's faster. You can make $1 million faster than you can make 100,000. The guy was like, "What?" And I think the concept what he was trying to say is like if you scale up, but he was
Right,
like,
right, right.
more likely you got to get to 100,000 first. It's rarely you're gonna just come out with zero
I
and
mean,
get to
unless
a
you got your
million.
unless your daddy give it to you, right?
Unless even if you get a record contract for $1 million, they only gonna give you 100,000 up front, and that's a loan, so you ain't even making that money. So it's just like
Yeah.
it's just one of those things, like
Bad
you
boy
said.
record.
Somebody be like, "Well, he didn't score 62 and 3/4," and it's like, yeah, just
Yeah,
just
it's
applaud the
always something.
accomplishment, man. It's nothing wrong with it. Love it or
Right.
hate it, applaud the accomplishment.
So last week you might have noticed there was a bunch of dudes running around in tights
No
playing Robin
bull,
Hood,
no
playing
bull. I don't even
Robin
know where that
Hood
came
out
from.
there, the NFL combine, and there were some stars. There were a lot of fast guys, that didn't do drills. There were some quarterbacks, the top three: Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams that didn't throw the ball. So Mr. Logical, let's start here. Justin Fields gotta go.
Justin Fields is gone because and he was gone, and the moment we all know should have known that he was gone was when they kept Matt Eberflus. Justin Fields in 38 games as a starter is 10-28. The Chicago Bears for the last 2 years, excuse me. Granted, last year they earned the number one pick by losing games. Well, I guess it was slightly gifted to them by Lovie Smith in Houston, but they earned the number one pick, and then this year their play earned them the number 9 pick. They happen to have number one from Carolina in the deal they made, getting rid of the number one pick last year. So Matt Eberflus coached this team 2 years in a row to top 10 picks, but yet you kept him. So I know football is a lot of places, a lot of skill positions at the work. The old line has to be solid, special team coach, nutritionist, strength conditioning coach. All of it has to be somewhat quality in order to get a quality product on the field. So if you're going to keep the coach, then you're probably going to get rid of the quarterback because somebody has to be at fault for not getting these wins. And if you're not going to put it on the shoulders of the coach, and you have the number one pick and the best player, most generational talent coming out, Caleb Williams, sitting there at number one for you to pick. He didn't do any medical. He didn't do it. He did probably a couple of interviews. He didn't plan on meeting with a lot of teams. He's like, everyone can't draft me. I'm only one person. So he knows he's going number one overall. He's like, I'm not even going to waste my time going through the whole draft process because they know what's going on. They know they're going to draft Caleb Williams. The only thing is they're going to play hardball and lose a good deal because they want to get this right. Because the history of the Bears organization is that they get it wrong.
Yeah, and that's my problem with the whole situation is that if you want to move off Justin Fields, I don't think you'll get much pushback. Like there'll be some people that disagree with it. I disagree with it, but I understand it from a business standpoint, from economics. It's either pay Justin Fields or reset the clock and the contracts and get Caleb Williams in there on a rookie deal. Because when we look back at it, you have teams like the Seattle Seahawks who were able to flourish when Russell Wilson was on his rookie deal. Look at the 49ers right now while Brock Purdy's on his rookie deal. So I get it. The problem with the Bears is they got a lot of holes everywhere else. So, we got to figure out what are they going to do? Are they going to be able to keep Jalen Johnson, who wants to be the number one paid corner in the league from the University of Utah? Are we going to they picked up Montez Sweat, which proved to be a valuable pickup because everybody thought they were dead in the water after losing Roquan Smith or trading Roquan Smith. But what else? They let go of Eddie Jackson on defense, I'm talking about. So then when you look at offense, they do have DJ Moore, so you're setting up Caleb Williams to succeed. They have Cole Kmet. They have Robert Tonyan. They have
2 pass catching tight ends.
They got Deontay Freeman, who was good for them last year. They were top 4 in the league in rushing for most of the year. They have Roschon Johnson, who I thought was one of the steals of the draft out of the University of Texas. Nobody knew who he was because he sat behind Bijan Robinson. So they have talent. Now you got to fix the line, the offensive line, because there's no point in bringing in another quarterback if you still can't protect them.
You know what? Real quick with the offensive line stuff, I'm not sure that offensive lines are like starting offensive lines are that bad. It's the quarterback. If the quarterback holds on to the ball for too long, then he gets sacked or they don't score any points. You can't run the ball because you're down 10-0, 13-0 early because you're not moving the ball because on every pass play, the quarterback is not getting you points. So or that they're not putting the sustaining drives. So it looks like they're not good at run blocking because you can't run the ball because you're down the whole game.
I just got a message from my Andrew Luck. He said, "Fuck all that."
He was running into people. No, Andrew Luck was scrambling and trying to run people over. He came back from injury, started running out of bounds. But I'm not saying like, listen, I know when there's a hole in the offensive
Jay
line,
Cutler.
but a lot of it is just like, for instance, like the holding calls. If you stay in the
Mm-hmm.
pocket, because if I'm a tackle and I'm blocking, the defensive end knows the quarterback's about to scramble out. And if he has a hold inside, we're good to go. But he knows, like, oh, Fields is scrambling out. Let me do this. Now it's a holding call. Now it's second
Oh,
and
they're
20.
flopping, huh?
Oh, yeah. You got to sell it. You got to sell it. I mean, so I think people all say fix the line. That's just coaching. I think that's coaching. I think it's scheme. You can make that work. Matt Eberflus said something at a press conference last week, and I think I might have mentioned it. But what he said was like, we need a guy that can show some toughness. He's like, I look at things situationally. We want a guy that can understand the situation, down and distance, when to throw the pass. We want a guy with some toughness. And it seemed like everything he was saying was exactly what Justin Field doesn't do. So you just keep it simple. You just draft Caleb Williams. You get the best deal you can get for Justin Fields. You can try to do right by him, whatever the case may be. I think all the teams that need quarterbacks are relatively in good position to thrive. You're not trading them to the rebuilding Carolina Panthers because they already got their guy. You're not
Right.
trading them to the Jets because they already got their guy. So you trade them to the Steelers that made the playoffs last year. You're gonna trade them to potentially maybe Minnesota. Their defense kind of turned around. Depends on the Kirk
But here,
Cousins.
but here's a
But
question:
I doubt you trade him in division. So
if the Bears are so convinced he's not the answer, why wouldn't I try? If I was one of these teams that are in the talks of getting him, why would I not try to trade up and get a quarterback
versus getting Justin Fields.
versus getting him? Yeah.
Because I think the going rumor that I've heard different podcasts and different pundits is like you can get him for like a second and a fourth, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe even straight up for a second round pick. I don't know if it's second round this year, next year, but any person that mentioned it, short of Mike Tannenbaum, because he just says whatever that comes to his mind.
Yeah, he just says,
But
yeah.
like Mike Florio, Rich Eisen, I watch a lot of these shows, and it's like basically a second round pick. So if you're a team like who sit like stockpiles pick, like Chicago got a bunch of picks from Carolina. If you're a team, you got a bunch of picks. You got a couple of thirds, you got a couple of seconds. Use one of them because to trade up, say for Atlanta at 8, if they really want a quarterback, to get to 3, best case scenario, you got to trade with New England, who needs a quarterback. To get to 2, you got to trade with Washington. They need a quarterback. 4, you get to Arizona,
Arizona. Mm-hmm.
but more than likely the top 3 quarterbacks are gone. And to get from 8 to 4, you're gonna have to give up a first this year. So you have to, swap. So they're gonna go down to 8. You get their 4, and then you're gonna get their first next year. You gotta give
But if
that
I
up,
bring in,
and
but if I
probably a
bring in
second or
Justin
third this
Fields,
year.
but if I bring in Justin Fields, I'm afraid
Afraid of
because
what?
he's in that Daniel Jones era where I gotta pay him. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if you're worthy of being paid, but now I'm on the hook to pay you.
Yeah, but you're not on the hook this year. I think you have some leeway. I think you have some conversations that you're gonna have to make sure you're not on the hook this year. And if you're willing to trade for him, you must see something in him that Chicago couldn't see.
Right.
But like I said, there's only a few teams that are really even in that position that really need
Mm-hmm.
him. If you think about the AFC North, South, East, and West, the Raiders, so that's one.
Raiders. Okay.
If you go NFC East, I don't think those teams that need a quarterback are in position to get one in the draft
Right.
between
Right.
6 and 3. Jalen
Right.
Hurts is locked in Philly. Dak is locked in Dallas, essentially. NFC South, you got Baker probably going to re-sign with Tampa. We'll talk about
Yeah,
that
especially they
later.
brought Mike Evans back.
They
Yep.
brought Mike
And
Evans
then
back, and then so Atlanta maybe, but Atlanta could maybe they try to make a move, and if McCarthy slipping, they jump back in the first round. I think if they don't trade up, they probably get a defensive end at 8. And then, like I said, if you could trade for Justin Fields with a second round pick, and they have plenty of cap room. The defense is really good. You get your edge at 8 to bolster the defense. You get Justin Fields in your second round, and then your third round pick, because the offense is legit. So now you just build the defense up. So you
mhm.
build up to where he's like, listen, man, we're gonna run the ball with this 3-headed monster we have in the backfield, or you're gonna throw it to one of these 6'5" guys on the outside. That's it.
Does Atlanta concern you at all, being where he's from and
If he was
just having
if he was a rookie, and if he see the fact that he had to transfer out of Georgia because he was number one rated quarterback in the country. I think
Mhm.
maybe either him or Trevor Lawrence, but depends on what list you
Right.
looked at, Rivals or Scout.com or ESPN 300 or
Right.
whatever. So to go there, sit behind Jake Fromm, a guy he probably felt he was better than, and then transferring and then having success at Ohio State, and then coming into the league and kind of dealing with adversity. I think it kind of, I think it made him a pro, and the fact that people who talk about him talk glowingly about him. Like no one
Mhm.
talks about like he has a poor attitude. Like the way, like I mean, Kadarius Toney is a bad example, but as soon as they traded for him, the word was he has a terrible attitude. And but like you don't hear that about Justin Fields. So I think it's good. He was on the Netflix special, quarterback. The high school
Mhm.
family seemed to be very level headed. So I think
Yeah, I
it's a
think
good
I think I
move.
like Pittsburgh. I think I like Pittsburgh just because, so I like Atlanta because of the talent.
I don't like
I
Pittsburgh
like
because of Arthur Smith.
I like Pittsburgh because of Mike Tomlin and the structure. So like Mike so Justin Fields can come along in Pittsburgh to some degree, where if he doesn't hit the ground running, like Tomlin usually has Pittsburgh in a position in spite of their quarterback. Whereas in Atlanta with Drake London, B. John, Kyle Pitts, I think that they're looking at Justin Fields potentially, if they bring him in, as the potential answer or the last piece on offense that we need to win this division
Well,
and
I
make
would
some
think
noise.
that if the coaching staff was in place last year, since the coaching staff is all new, I think it's all building blocks. I think they're
Oh,
I think
definitely,
they're
definitely. It
I
doesn't have to
think
be this year
because
per se.
but the him in Pittsburgh, I don't like because of Arthur Smith. I just didn't think Arthur Smith was creative enough offensively. I don't think he called enough plays to put the quarterback in a position where he could stretch the field. Like I said, Desmond Ritter didn't throw the ball deep,
No, not
but
at all.
but it was but like I said, I went to the game and granted, excuse me, it was raining in MetLife Stadium, but they didn't even have I can't recall any routes where there was a deep route here, a deep route here, and like an intermediate route. Like it just was all everything was shallow, and then like one guy running up the seam, but he had help underneath and help over top. It's like you're not even making
You're
the
not going
defense
to
move.
attempt that. Yeah.
You're just running Kyle Pitts into the safety with the linebacker chasing him underneath. It's like it was silly. The one time that the touchdown route they got was because this one tight end leaked out the other side, and he caught it, found him in the back of the end zone. It was like a 25-yard, 30-yard touchdown. But that's the thing. So I just don't know. I just don't know if Arthur Smith has the. I don't think that marriage will work. It's very similar to like the Russell Wilson Sean Payton marriage. I don't think Russell Wilson did a bad job. I just think that
No, not at
Sean
all.
Sean Payton wanted the ball out quick. Well, with Arthur Smith, he would always get upset with Desmond Ritter because he would like hold on to the ball or he throw these red zone interceptions. I'm like, yo, you keep we keep moving the ball down the field, running it,
Look at the
and
plays
then
you're calling.
we get inside the 15, and it's like they know he doesn't throw anything in the tight windows. So
I mean,
any pass
utilize a
play,
play action or something.
they knew they know he wasn't going to throw anything to the tight window. It wasn't going to be a
Mhm.
play action and then like turn right around. You know, like Tom Brady
And that's why it was
hit that
crazy
quick
because
play
they look
action
like
and
a
hit Gronk.
completely so usually when your backup comes in, you look like a completely different team because your backup doesn't take all the snaps and the reps. Your backup is normally a lesser player than your starter. But Atlanta looked the reverse when Heineke came in the game. Like Heineke looked like he was the starter. And
Because
Ritter
Heineke
looked like the
had
guy that was
confidence. Yeah, he had
yeah,
confidence.
yeah. He looked like the deer in the headlights that didn't know what he was doing, as if he was thrown into the fire. Whereas Heineke said, just move out the way and let me do this.
They looked. It pretty much looked like Alex Smith versus Pat Mahomes. Like, not I'm not talking about like the production wise, but the fact is like
Right, right, right. The
Alex Smith
control and the command of the offense.
is he's throwing the check down. He's gonna be smart with the ball. Except Ritter would get into the red zone. Like I said, he didn't make tight window throws at all, like all season. So Heineke was like, oh, I'm making this throw. So that's why I was like, that's why I think
And live
Justin would
with
be
it.
good
And
there.
you just live with it.
Yeah,
And I think that's what Justin Fields needs to work on from the standpoint of I feel like he waits for the perfect opening. And so like looking at Donovan McNabb, when he had Deshaun Jackson, like he took a lot of sacks
trying to
just
get
looking
that
for the
deep
big
post.
play.
Yeah,
Yeah, and Justin Fields does that, but without necessarily looking for the deep post. It might be a 10 to 12-yard route, but he's waiting for the receiver to do something magical and for the defender to disappear. And when that doesn't happen,
yeah.
his instinct takes over. And so that can be great on a team that features B. John Robinson and Algier. But to reach that pinnacle of success, you have to find that balance and be able to manipulate the pocket with your feet. You can still move around, but you don't need to take off. So
And
that's what I think Philip Williams
getting
will provide
offensive
to the
guys.
Bears that he did.
Yeah, and that's I think. But with Justin Fields, I think if he goes to Atlanta with the LA passing game and that concept coming to Atlanta because he got Raheem and then the offensive coordinator he got from the Rams. He took a guy from the staff to be the offensive coordinator in Atlanta. I think Caleb Williams is a good pick. I think Drake May at 2 is a good pick for Washington.
Yeah, I think
I
Drake
think
May is
some
better than a lot of people are giving him credit for. Like I think people are starting to do the Jokic thing with Drake May, where like it doesn't look a certain way, or here's this white guy getting some hype. And I think people are just tired of that. So like they're taking it out on Drake May. Whereas I don't think Drake May is necessarily the right dude that applies to.
But they were talking about him. They being the pundits, like Colin Cowherd. I remember like a year ago, he was talking about Drake May saying like if he was to come out this year, because he was talking about the lack of quarterback talent in the draft last year
Mhm. Right.
versus wait till these guys come out next year. And he was talking about Caleb Williams and Drake May. Jaden Daniels kind of came out of nowhere with the Heisman season, but it's like 50 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, like 50
4
total touchdowns
interceptions, yeah.
and
But
four
I'm still
interceptions. So
concerned about him. Like
I mean,
like like
yeah,
he
because you got to be concerned about all of them. But I think the poise, once again, I'll use example of how everyone was like tearing the stuff out of his locker and telling him to get out and call. And the way he handled that, that's a lot. You got people recording you, you got people calling you trash, like your former teammates, people that you were rocking with for a whole season, like just literally in your ear, like, and to be able to bounce back, go to LSU with Brian Kelly, who hasn't really been known for success, but just go out there and battle and win the Heisman. I think it shows a little perseverance. I want that for
it
my young
does, but it also
quarterback,
helps when you
and
have
he's going
Malik
to a
Neighbors
stable
and
team.
Brian Thomas. It also like he's 6'4", but he's almost in that Durant kind of build. You know what I mean? That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
Is he going to have health issues?
You can put
Is he
12
more
pounds of
than
muscle on. He's a young guy. You could
is he
probably get
more
enough protein shakes in him and put
is
12
he
pounds on him.
more is he more Bo Nix than he is Caleb Williams? You know, I've seen some people comparing him to Lamar Jackson, for example. He is not
Lam,
that.
Lam, Lamar looked very skinny coming out of Louisville.
He
You
did,
know, like when he had that
and
breakout game against.
he's been hurt.
Yeah, but
But
his
he's been
knees
hurt.
are his knees are hurting. It's not like he's hurting like his forearm is always hurt or he has shoulder issues. Like, yeah, you get hit in the knee, everybody's knee's gonna hurt. You're getting hit by 290-pound dudes in your legs, you might get hurt. But he played this whole season, and then he had his whole MVP season. So I don't think Lamar's injuries have been as a detriment to him as like granted it's a different sport. Like
Well, I mean,
Kawhi's
he's missed
injuries have been to
5 games.
him,
The last 5 games of back-to-back seasons.
and
You
then
know,
he came out this year and he played the whole season and he won MVP.
yep. And then everybody was
But
complaining about
but
his
he put a
playing
little
the
he put
AFC
a little
Championship game.
that was a game plan. They should have just told him, yo, check it down. There's no one in the flats. There's no defense in the flats either side of the any
Well,
look over his
you would like to think that an MVP would know that or see that.
listen, it takes a village. And the dude that
Oh,
was up in
okay.
the box
Okay.
should have been like, yo, check it down. Just check because like I said, they checked it down to old boy Hill and the other
Shit,
guy.
Odell could have told him that instead of like, yo,
Nah,
we need
Odell
you
was trying
to
to get
get
that deep crosser route because Odell's not in the flat. He not over there. I'm not in the flat. I'm not worried about so I'm over here. I'm over here with speed. Get me underneath. Like I need to get this highlight because he was amped when he caught a couple of passes. Odell was, but I was
so,
like, yo, it
so
might be
so
a little
what
too
else?
late.
So what else is standing out to you about the combine/draft?
The side I watched the DB 40s and I was just looking at like the size difference from some of these guys. It was like a lot. It was a lot of 5'9", 5'9.5", 5'10", 180, 175, 190 guys running. Then I saw a few. I wish I would have wrote the names down. Was one DB was like 6'2", 217, and he ran a 4.4. I'm like, that's a no brainer. I'm taking that. Like, and it's not just the speed. It's just because one of the guys talking, I believe it was Rich Eisen or maybe Daniel Jeremiah saying like he has the potential to. They might bring him that guy. He's a safety. He might come down and play linebacker. I'm like, yeah, if he's already 6'2", 217 at the
Yes.
combine, uh, yeah, like I like that choice because we saw you can see what happens when you have good cornerback play in the Super Bowl. So
Mhm.
I think everyone's looking for that those standout young corners. Seattle had success with Woolen. Sauce Gardner's
And
had
then they picked
success.
up Witherspoon. Uh-huh.
I think they're in. Hopefully, NFL kind of allows these guys to get a little bit more handsy in the pass game, just so it. Yeah, I don't need every game to be 34-31. Like let these guys get out there and be physical. The wide receivers are running into them. They're running these tight ends like Kyle Pitts and Kelsey and Hayden Hurst. These guys are running right into defenders. Like let them play. Keep the defensive holdings and legal contacts down. But so I like the DB drills. The running backs, I saw a couple of those guys. As soon as I seen them run 4.6, I'm like, yeah. I don't know what the big deal is with the 4.6. Like, can the guy is he like my son said a phrase to me when he was talking about football, because he was playing running back. He was like, slow until you know, then go. Like slow to the hole's there, go. Because he
Mhm.
played youth football, then he went to high school, and like he got a couple of varsity reps, and he was like, it was so fast. He was like, it's way faster than like the Greyhounds. Like he's like, it's way faster than that. So he just was like, as long as you can hit the hole and hold onto the ball. Like I think the four
Right.
six 4.5 difference is like we talk about Keon Coleman. He ran a 4.62 or something like that, and they're talking about him falling out of the first round. It's like, well, he's
Right.
also 6'4".
Right, right,
He shouldn't be
right.
nimble. Like
But he
everyone's
also,
not DK Metcalf.
well, he also in the broad jump, Keon Coleman, I'm talking about, he
Yeah.
finished in the 85th percentile. His vertical was in the 80th percentile. His weight is in the 77th percentile. So, like, what are we talking about here? Like,
Like,
I'm sure Mike Evans ain't out here, saying beating Tyreek Hill in a race or keeping it close.
listen, all you gotta do is set up the corner and get open.
But
Every explosive plays don't happen often. Can you get open?
speaking of corners, Quinyon Mitchell stood out from Toledo. There's always the talk of these small schools. What are the players going to do? And we were talking about the combine, and one of the things that we said we kind of agreed on was if you're from a smaller school or if you're on the fringe, then the combine is probably for you. So he's about 6 feet, 195. He ran a 4.33, 38 and a half vertical. So, I think he did very well for himself. I'm a big Terrion Arnold fan, but Mitchell may have made a debate now that he should be the first corner taken off the board. Um, Something else that stood out to me was Xavier Worthy out of Texas, obviously, broke John Ross's 40-yard dash record.
Yeah,
But
but
what
I
he
think
did
John
not
Ross
do,
ruined it for guys that run that fast
yeah,
because
but
he
I
had
was going to
nothing.
say, but what he did not do was any of the wide receiver drills because he has a case of the dropsies. So, so he'll be fast, but you're going to have to wait until camp to watch him catch a pass.
So hopefully he can catch punts.
Then, you got the monsters everywhere. Brandon Fisk out of Florida State in his 40. Tavondre Sweat, like the defensive line, is represented well. Like everybody's focused on the quarterbacks. You got Tavondre Sweat, you got Chop Robinson. You know
Chop.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah, they had his
yeah, Chop.
simulcast against
Mhm.
Miles Garrett and Nick Bosa, and he dusted both of them.
Yeah, you got Byron Murphy, you got Darius Robinson, Chris Jenkins. So there's like defensive linemen and tackle all over the place. So
Dallas
that might
Turner.
end up being Jarrett Verse. So that might be the part of the draft that goes underrated that we look back in say 5 or 6 years and we're like, wow, like look at that. And then the corners as well, Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry. So I'm not the biggest Kool-Aid guy, but I know the scouts like him a lot.
Yeah.
So but I wanted to go back to some more GM stuff here.
What we got?
So we were talking earlier. We didn't really get so deep into it, but what are your thoughts if you're Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry. What kind of money does he want though? That's the thing. Like, is there a number that he's like, I gotta have 11 million, I gotta get 10 million, I gotta get 12 million, because that's gonna limit where he goes. Not just because the cap. It's just I don't know if people
Well,
want to
well, his
give
last
a 30,
contract
30-year running back that money.
was 4 years, 50 million, with a $12 million signing bonus, and 25.5 of that was guaranteed.
He'll if he 2 years, 20 million, 8 million, 10 million signing bonus, or like however they work these running back deals. Because I think that's what Saquon wanted from the reports that we heard last year before they franchised him. I think he just wanted like 22 million, 2 years,
Yeah,
22 million, something like that, like 11 and a
right.
half, 11, 11 and a half, something like that, 22, 23 million. It
And they
wasn't a
tried to play
crazy
the
number.
incentive games with him.
And then they franchised him, and then they took the franchise tag off and gave him a worse contract because he would have made more with the franchise tag. And if they
Mhm.
franchise tag him again, the number would go up. But he took it
Right.
off. So now they can franchise him again if they want.
And that's the
because he
boat
took it
that
off.
Jacobs is in. Where Josh Jacobs, he said he is willing to come back to the Raiders on a 1-year deal if there's no money out there.
But that's the thing. Is there like, I don't want to say collusion because that would be kind of strong, but
Yes,
yeah, because
collusion. Yes,
you got Austin Eckler. I mean, does Derrick Henry go to Los Angeles and line
to the
up with
Chargers.
Jim Harbaugh? Yeah, and go to the Chargers.
Well, I don't know. They got to do a whole lot of cap space cutting.
They gonna get rid of some guys. I think Harbaugh's gonna come in, and
I
he
want to say they're
knows
like
he.
45 million over the cap.
I think he knows that he has a couple of years to figure it out. They have that juggernaut Kansas City that's going to win the division again next year. I think the fact that they're in this cap bind. Bosa, I don't know what his trade value is because he does seem to miss a lot of games. I think Khalil
Mm-hmm.
Mack might have a little trade value. I don't know what his contract situation is looking like, but they'll move a couple of those pieces. Keenan Allen, I doubt that he comes back because Nick Wright
No,
said on
he
First
said he
Things
wants
First.
to.
He said that the wide receiver market is going to start to get that same kind of treatment that the running back market
If
gets.
I'm running back admitting,
Like for instance, Mike Evans got 2 years, 52 million. That's a lot, but it's only a 2-year deal. Knowing the NFL is probably some crazy voids in it after one season or team options and
there
like
ain't
the same
much.
thing Russ is dealing with. Yeah,
There ain't much out there. Like you're looking at Odell Beckham, Curtis Samuel, Tyler Boyd, MVS, Kendrick Bourne, Paris Campbell, Nicole Hartman. There's a whole lot of. I think Calvin Ridley's a free agent.
and then you
Uh,
have a lot of these young guys. I mean, granted, Puka Nakua was an anomaly. Rasheed Rice was an anomaly. You got Gary Wilson with the Jets, who had a good year with
oh,
Zach Wilson as his quarterback. So
speaking of speaking
they're
of
going to
real
start
quick,
looking
speaking
at
of
like the wide receivers are going to the young wide receivers are going to you're going to be able to start 3 young wide receivers and be successful.
yeah, real quick, speaking of wide receivers in Puka Nakua, um, I think Lad McConkey from Georgia might be this year's Puka Nakua. I'm just going off of the combine. Like he
He didn't
definitely.
have that many catches in college. Like
No,
his
he didn't. No,
yeah.
he didn't. But I just mean like just hitting the scene, surprising everybody. Like he could be that guy. But to Derrick Henry, if I'm Derrick Henry, I'm looking towards the crabs and the lobsters and the Chesapeake
Merlin,
Bay. I'm
Merlin,
looking for Maryland. Yes,
Merlin.
that's where I'm. If I'm Derrick Henry, I'm
Stupid.
giving Baltimore, as they
You
say
going
in
to
the
Maryland,
military,
stupid.
I'm giving Baltimore the first right of refusal. You know what I'm saying? So if Baltimore doesn't want me, then I might just mosey on down to Arlington, Texas. If they don't want me, I might mosey on to Kansas City if they can afford me.
I don't think
But I
Kansas
don't
City
know
is
if
going to
Kansas City
spend
can.
any free agency money on offense, like
Well, it looks
anything
like they're going
big.
to franchise Snead. That looks like it's coming down. So I
But I
wonder
think
if
there's
I got to
also
go
like
back and look.
with the provision that he can kind of look for a trade as well.
Yeah, I got to
I
look
think
at the
that's kind of
numbers
built
to
into
see
it.
if they end up franchising him. How does that affect Chris Jones?
I think the franchise is supposed to help the team. Like
It
it just kind
is.
of like
Mhm.
it's like you taking money out of your savings account
Right.
to
But does it
pay
help
him.
enough that it gives Jones what he's looking for?
If they do one of those Lane Johnson deals like the Eagles did, where he got 34 million and his signing bonus is 33. It was something crazy like that, like a 1 year, $33 million. It was something crazy, but the signing bonus was like 90% of it. It was something bananas like that.
Yeah, and shout out to Fletcher Cox. Sounds like he's going to retire after a great career.
Jason Kelsey retired, but we kind of all knew that. We knew that on his face on the sideline.
Yeah.
Uh, Derrick
So,
Henry, I like him in Baltimore. I think he has gas left in the tank.
I
I
might
think
even
he's
look at
I think,
Cincinnati.
but they got
If they
Mixon. I don't know how much. I don't know how well
Yeah,
they.
get rid of Mixon.
I mean, he might shoot you. He shot at some kids, so I'm pretty sure he
But
was
they got to
shooting the
figure
GM's
out T
car up.
Higgins before they got to figure out T Higgins before they do anything else. But or I mean, you could draft a T Higgins replacement if you wanted to. I guess.
I mean, like I said, the wide receiver market just went crazy a couple of years ago with the Tyreek contract and then Devontae Adams contract. And teams are like, man, I can't pay my quarterback. We're going like, what's the next going rate? 52.5 million
Well,
for
it
these next
depends
young
because Dak
guys.
looking for 60, right?
If Dak gets 60, so you got
It's
Dak.
game over.
I don't know if he's getting 60. I think
No,
any
he might get
compromise,
55.
so 55. So you're somewhere between like if they give Tua an extension after Dak or whatever the case may be, you're gonna be paying Tua 50 million and Tyreek 30 or 28 or 30. And then what do you do when Waddle
Bye,
comes up?
Waddle. Yeah, bye.
So
You draft
so
Troy
I think
Franklin. You draft
I
Troy Franklin and tell Waddle to pack his bags.
I think teams are reluctant to do these deals for wide receivers. But I think Derrick Henry, like I'd go out west where it's warm. I mean, I guess if you're thinking about winning now, Baltimore would
Yeah,
be a
that's
good
it's got
spot.
because he's 30 now. He's 30.
But you got to be, you might have to take a 2 year, $16 million deal. You got to want to take that on the chin.
But I think that for a team like Baltimore, I mean, they were in the AFC Championship game this year. They're a good organization that usually makes the right moves. So, I mean, I think I would trust them more than Dallas, which is why I had Baltimore over Dallas.
Yeah,
So I think that you're willing to do that with the chance of a championship because otherwise, just about anywhere else, you're hoping to compete. Whereas Baltimore is just about there. I don't know if you're the one that puts them over the top, but you have to believe you are.
I think they give him the ball in this AFC Championship game
Yeah, definitely.
instead of throwing what Lamar had like 39 passes, 40
You
passes,
know,
or something like that.
something
I
like
think
that.
he
But
get
but definitely because then you give the defense something to think about at least. You know what I mean? I mean, apparently the play action is a lost form unless you're certain teams.
that play action got Ryan Tannehill $170 million with Derrick Henry.
But that's what it was. The team said after Ryan Tannehill got paid, no more play action.
No more play action.
No
Because
more play action.
Arthur Smith was calling those play actions, and he didn't call that many in Atlanta. I keep bringing it back to
He
Atlanta. I
sure
feel like that.
didn't. He sure
Yeah,
didn't. But
even though they run the
but
ball great.
I was listening to a little Usher today. You remind me of a girl that I once knew, and it spawned us to have a conversation
Yo, that's the most
about the
toxic
NBA.
music video ever. He followed this girl
It is.
around just to tell her, I don't want you. Singing and dancing, just tell her, I don't want you, then ghost her in the video. He did it like 3 women. That was the most toxic video I've ever seen. But yeah, keep going. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
take it
yeah.
up.
So before we get to that, like I said, the Clippers, Russell Westbrook hurt his hand. LeBron's in the 40,000 club. Still can't beat the Nuggets. For whatever reason, the Nuggets just seem to have the Lakers number. Boston, you're on the clock, and what I mean by that is it's win or bust at this point.
Yeah. They're
You're
probably
eight
the
games
only
ahead.
team that's in that
Yeah, you're
that
the
I
only
agree
team
with.
that's in that boat. Because like I said the other day, like if they or earlier today, if they don't win the title this year, I'm sorry. I don't usually like to have the fast trigger. I usually don't like to do these things, but Joe Mazzulla got to go if they don't win the title this year, especially if there's no injuries. Because we got Porzingis in the MVP conversation. Apparently,
10th.
Jason Tatum. You got Captain Drew. You got Dirk White. He even shaved his head, so he's about business. You got Jalen Brown.
Yeah, that forehead
Like
was forehead.
Al Horford. If you want to meet up with Jokic, you got Al Horford to put up on him, so to speak. So like there's a lot going on here. You got Sam Hauser coming off the bench. as a rookie, knocking down timely shots. There is no excuse in this world outside of injury for the Boston Celtics to not win this title.
The title? You said there's no
The
excuse.
title.
They got to win the title.
They got to win the title. I mean, you've been to the finals already, before you even had some of these pieces that I mentioned.
Yeah.
You've been to the Eastern Conference finals just about every year of Jason Tatum's career,
Pretty
if
much.
not
Yeah.
every year.
I think
You know what I
they're pretty
mean?
much a staple. Yeah.
Yeah. So unless I guess you run into Miami again, I guess I guess
I
that's
mean,
the Achilles heel.
crazier things have happened. Miami is a giant killer. They did the same
They
thing
are.
they did it in the bubble with Giannis. When they
Yep.
were
They did it
number
last
one
year to
team,
Giannis.
it did it last year. I mean, they just have these people's numbers. Like they can just do it. Uh, I mean, they are. I mean, they've beaten 3 teams this year by 50 points.
They beat the Warriors by 50 yesterday.
Yeah, so it's like they
Did you
just
see
shoot it
that
like.
halftime score?
Was it like 80 or 38 or something? 82
82 to 38.
How do you come back out? Like, how do you go in the locker room, untie your shoes, sit there, and just like, all right, take it one possession at a time? Like, come on, man.
Especially
I
when you
I know
got
these
Steph
tickets
out here
cost a
going,
lot.
especially when you got Steph out here going 2 for 13, 0 for 9 from 3.
That's a strange thing for it must be way more heavy on the brain than we can even imagine. Like that intensity for a guy that talented that we've seen go for 50 plus in Madison Square Garden, win 4 championships, finals MVP, 40 something points against Boston in game 4 when they're down 2-1. For him to be in that mindset, and like I say, came back game 5, had 16 points. So it just must be like when you're feeling it, you're feeling it. When you're not, I can't imagine what's going through their heads because like for him to go 0 for 9 doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, Steph Curry is like a Harlem Globetrotter. You call it a big game, he turned into John Starks.
Mike got a thing for Steph. Steph, Julius Randle.
I love Steph.
Yeah, Boston
I just tell the
definitely
truth.
has.
I just tell the truth.
So if we got Boston, so out west is a toss up. We got like I think we're down to like 5 teams, right? At this point.
Yeah, I mean OKC took over number 1.
So we got OKC because they're number 1 in the West. Denver,
Minnesota, Clippers,
but they do have older players with, injury history.
Phoenix. I mean, you got to give them a puncher's.
You got to give them a puncher's chance. Yeah, you got to give them a puncher's chance. But it seems like a lot to get.
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier. Like something that I've been thinking about, right? For whatever reason, Minnesota struggles with New Orleans. They just cannot stop Brandon Ingram. Like, he is the Achilles heel for the Timberwolves. When I look at the Clippers, you got injury history and you got 2 dudes that usually come up small when the chips are on the line, Paul George and James Harden. Playoff P, if you will. When I look at OKC, just a little bit too young, maybe. Just a little bit too young. In Denver, it's just hard to repeat, so especially if you don't get the altitude on your side as far as like having home court. So like everybody is flawed in their own little way. Michael Porter, went 10 for 10 against the Lakers the other night. So you keep that up. I mean, you'd be just fine.
Yeah. But that's the thing is that you have championship pedigree with those teams. They've been in it. Got, your lead player has won 2 MVPs. OKC being number 1, I don't know if sometimes it's hard to beat a hunter. Because now you're the hunted because you're number 1 seed.
Right.
And like you said, the youth. I mean, the youth, maybe they're so naive that they don't know how big the moment is, or they get overwhelmed by the moment. Because right now, watching them play against the Lakers, and they're up 10, 16-6 with 6:30 left in the first. and it looks like they're pretty much. It looks like they're dominating. So
or
you
they
get
got the
Minnesota.
MVP.
You saying that OKC is going to have the MVP?
Well, I mean, if it was today, they got the MVP. But I'm just saying, like, maybe if they get to the playoffs, maybe he's a leader in that way.
You got the
But we
MVP
don't
and the Rookie
know.
of the Year potentially.
Nah, I
And
don't think he's getting Rookie of the Year. I think
not over
Wemby's
Wemby.
got that locked up.
Lock that
Yeah, I
up.
think Wemby. Yeah.
You got a rookie on a number one team out west, and you got another rookie that's about to draft number one again. But I guess you can't fault him for his team. And he's only playing like 28 minutes too.
I mean, that was my argument when I thought Melo was Rookie of the Year, but it is what it is.
The media felt otherwise.
Yeah, media felt otherwise. Like, I think that this is one of those Rookie of the Year contests where it can go either way. But the problem is every time you turn on the TV, all you hear is Wemby's the first person since Shaq. Wemby's the first person since Giannis. Wemby, here's the list of people that have done this. Giannis, Shaq, Wemby. So it's kind of hard to beat that out for Rookie of the Year.
30 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks, 2 steals. No one's ever had that line. It's like, who does this research?
I know, right? But yeah, I think that OKC, they just don't rebound well enough in addition to being young. They don't rebound well enough to keep, like, if they were to match up with Minnesota in a series, they would get their lunch.
They're playing very small. Right now they have Dort, Chet, Jalen Williams, Giddey, and SGA on the floor.
And that's the guy that everybody's forgetting about. Jalen Williams has stepped it up this year.
But you got the Lakers. They got Austin Reeves and D'Lo.
LeBron taking the night off?
No, LeBron, AD, and Hachimura.
Yeah, Rui,
Yeah, Rui. So the Lakers are bigger than them right now. And if this is a lineup that they're running with, it's not a great rebounding lineup other than the length you have with Chet. And Giddey's a big guy. Giddey's 6'8". So Giddey can mix it up. He's not a bulky guy, but he's 6'8".
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're tall,
guy.
but they're not big.
Like
Bomani Jones. I love Bomani Jones. Shout out to Bomani. He always talks about, are you big man or are you tall man? And they got tall man. They don't have big man. This would be a good year to have Steven Adams back.
Yeah, you need that kind of muscle.
Yeah. So like I told you before, if we're looking at the playoff breakdown, like the actual bracket, and we see LA, the Lakers opposite OKC, I'm probably taking the Lakers in a series. Sort of similar to Memphis last year. Obviously, Memphis was hurt though, but the same type of thought.
I picked against Memphis because I just thought I thought team chemistry was off because some of Ja's antics. I just figured that probably rubbed some of the veterans the wrong way. It probably created a situation where you got to get out of town because one player don't know how to act. We got to adjust our lives because one guy is acting immaturely. We haven't heard much about him this year. I don't know how his rehab anything is going, but I just felt like that they showed immaturity versus just OKC being young.
It didn't help that Dylan Brooks was out here poking bears either.
Just unnecessarily. I poke bears. It's yo, just play your game. I think if they just would have played their game, they'd been fine. But I felt like the immaturity and lack of leadership cost them.
Right.
I don't see a lack of leadership with OKC. I just think it's a lack of experience.
They're just young. They're a year ahead of schedule. Because last year they were in the play-in, and this year, I'm sure most people expected that they would be maybe back in the play-in or maybe like 5th or 6th.
Yeah.
And, in a good year. But of course they came back and now they're the number 1 seed for the time being. So, we'll see. But moving on, Mr. Logical and myself, we were having an interesting conversation. Yeah, we were thinking about it, saying, so This is the part where you like and subscribe.
Yeah. Click the
We were
notification button.
yeah, we were talking about evolution. I was slow to this point because we talk about how the game has evolved, the players have evolved because they always do. I mean, just looking at the NFL, look at Jerry Rice and look at his son's measurables at the combines, for example. But looking at the NBA, we were looking at players because someone had made the comment earlier. Shout out to Dallas Mike. He
Yeah.
made the comment about LeBron James being nothing more than Larry Johnson. And my reaction was, well, yeah, the evolution of him. Like I think Zion's more Larry
Larry
Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah.
And then that turned into we just going back and forth listing off people that may be the evolution of this player. So what you got, Mr. Logical?
So era by era. So the one of the pieces that we brought was the Tayshaun Prince. Oh, Scottie Pippen was original, like the patient zero of this conversation. Obviously, people always say LeBron is more like Magic than he is Jordan. So that's like an easy comparison. I kind of went. I don't want to say I went overboard, but I said he's basically like Karl Malone, Magic Johnson, and Jordan kind of all rolled into one player.
Yeah, you sound like
It,
Orlovsky talking about Caleb Williams.
yeah, it sounds crazy, but if you think about the size, speed, the unicorn type ability that Jordan had when he came to the league, guys didn't look like Jordan and do what Jordan did. So guys that looked like LeBron didn't do what LeBron did. Like Karl Malone wasn't leading the break and jumping out the gym the way LeBron does, and the way
With the
Magic
hand
leads the
behind
break.
with the hand
Like,
behind the
you know what I
head.
mean? Knees in the air, elbows everywhere, just looking like a gym rat. But we talked about Scottie Pippen, like the evolution, because we talking about Scottie won his just due. And it was like, well, if Scottie, if you look at how you played for the Bulls and your impact, they've been trying to make versions of you ever since. If we even take like Sean Marion, like just that lengthy guy that could play out in the wing, that could defend. We say he just shot a little more, and then we Tayshaun
Yo,
Prince
why on 2K when I was playing my era, Sean Marion's 3 point is an A+.
in the '90s, late
Yeah,
'90s.
that doesn't compute. But
Maybe
anyway,
they didn't want to. They didn't look at everyone. But it was like Tayshaun Prince, like the lengthy guy that, like the glue guy who can defend the other team's best player, but can also give you some points. Chase that like the chase down block on Reggie Miller. Then we went from Tayshaun to guys like Paul George, even Kawhi. That's like the evolution of Scottie Pippen, and now you have a guy like Jason Tatum who can take that length, that size, the ability to defend, but also put it on the floor and get buckets. Like that is what Scottie probably wanted to do, and that evolution now got you to Jason Tatum. So what was another one we had
the
for
one that we were talking about was how everybody compares Kyrie to Allen Iverson because of their handle.
yeah,
Whereas I think the more apropos comparisons are Kyrie to Tim Hardaway.
you said Tim
And
Hardaway, and I said Steve Francis, so right in that middle, the
yeah,
showmanship of the dribble. Like
right.
he's putting on, like Kyrie puts on a show with the ball in his hand. Like I said, that the English he puts on the layup with the right hand from the left side of the rim, he probably can just put in his left hand and lay it up. But the way he just puts on a show with the ball in his hand is what Tim Hardaway, Steve Francis would do. Steve Francis had that street ball, but he liked to get to the rim. Same thing with Kyrie. I think Kyrie was that evolution of like, okay, I'm gonna be able to shoot, because Tim Hardaway wasn't he didn't do a lot of crossovers and take a lot of shots. He was coming downhill a lot of times. Steve
Yeah.
Francis was the guy that he was a dunker trying to get to the rim, but like I said, he was a showman with the basketball.
Right.
Kyrie is that same way, but Kyrie does it and will pull up, and because he's such a good showman with the ball, a lot of his fakes, like that one he put on Steph Curry where he bounced the ball with his right hand, faked, turned left, and then while the ball was in the air, dribbled it back, spun back with his left hand and shot it. It's like Steph was there, but it's like that's not, I've never seen anyone do that. Like just bounce the ball and leave it. He left the whole ball, like boom, came back, grabbed it, shot it, made it. So like that kind of showmanship is one of the things that like we talked about Draymond Green being like the evolution of like
Uh-huh.
Charles Oakley and Anthony Mason, that enforcer. But not only is he an enforcer, the muscle playing undersized, he can get the ball and run. You can run the offense through him, while you have
Hmm.
guys like Clay and Steph running the baseline, a la what Ray Allen and Rip Hamilton did. These guys, it's not to say like them doing it better. They're just doing it different. They're doing it with the knowledge of this is how these guys did it. This is how
Right.
they
Let me
got over.
add on to that.
Maybe add on to that by coming off the screen instead of running to the corner. Get this, run off the screen and come all the way around to the wing because you
Right.
got Draymond
And
on the
then of
post. I was like,
course, and then when you bring Clay into it, you keep the Rip Hamilton, you keep the late career Ray Allen, and then you go back to Reggie Miller. Whereas like he was the father of that style, where
running
he
through
kind of
screens, just running your defender into
and
all
my
those big bodies.
and where I like the Clay comparison is it didn't take a lot of dribbles or many dribbles, any dribbles for them to be effective. So now, Reggie, he could put the ball on the floor at times, to whereas now we're seeing Clay, what was it like? He touched the ball for like 37 seconds or something, or like a minute and had 60 points.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
I saw is a YouTube breakdown of that. Shout out to people who make compilation videos on YouTube. Hit the notification button for our YouTube page. But it was something like 60 points on 11 dribbles or 13 dribbles or something like that.
yeah, it was something crazy like that. But yeah, that's like then another one we were talking about was I had brought up, saying, don't kill me, Residente, for bringing this up again. But my guy, Sam Perkins, we were talking about Duke versus Carolina the other day. But
Okay.
Sam Perkins um, turned into Rasheed Wallace,
Rasheed Wallace, the stretch big.
turned into Cat. So like just watching, because Sam Perkins wasn't the athletic type. He was just pick and pop. He hit the game winner against the Bulls in game one of the finals in 91. Then you got Rasheed Wallace as that next 6'10, 6'11-ish guy that seemed to prefer to want to shoot those shots versus bodying up on somebody, even though he had the ability to do it. And then now we're here with Cat, where this dude is 6'11-ish, 6'10, 6'11-ish, and
Call him a
shooting
seven
over
footer.
40, call him 7 foot, shooting over
Yeah.
70 or shooting over 40% from three,
Winning
winning
the
3-point
3-point
contest.
contest. Yeah.
Yeah, like so that was another evolution that stood out.
This might, I don't know if it's gonna really trigger anybody because I think this is an honest conversation. We talked about AI, the showmanship, the big time moment, the ego, so to speak. We went with Trey Young.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Young is because Iverson didn't shoot a lot of threes. Most guys in the 90s, early 2000s didn't shoot a lot of threes. But what Trey Young does, the big moments, the ice cold, shutting down the
Yeah,
Knicks fans, like
and the AI with
Iverson
the
Iverson was real big into like just audience participation, like, yo, like I'm gonna bust your ass. And I think Trey Young has that same kind of demeanor to his game. Granted, he doesn't have
yeah.
success. We're not comparing the success, we're just
Well, I
comparing
mean,
the
he went to the Eastern
evolution
Conference
of the
Finals,
style. Yeah, but like as far as like the shoe
or like
deal
the
and
MVP and all
the
that stuff. Yeah,
MVP and like the marketability, but just the way Iverson played, Trey Young basically has taken that and added the extended range of the 3-point shot. We talked about Dame Lillard kind of being like that.
and well, he also like kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not that AI wasn't a willing passer, but Trey Young has like he's the assist man too.
Yeah, but it's
On top of
flashy.
shooting.
It's
Right,
it's flashy.
right.
It's underneath armpit bounce
And he out
passes
here
and stuff
doing
like
nut
that.
games and
Yeah, stuff
stuff.
like that, like stuff that Iverson probably didn't really do. Iverson just hit you with the crossover aggressively, but it was a show. Like you knew when you saw Iverson come to the arena, you would get a show. And I think Trey tries to do that. That's why I was never understood why why he was in trade talks. Like, listen, no matter what, you're putting on a product that's supposed to be entertaining. I know this whole ideology that is all about championships, which it should be, but also you can't just dump your show because you're not winning
Mhm.
championship because people still got to pay for those 41 home games. And then you
So
still got to be able to get that cut when you go on the road. If you are a bum squad, like I don't know if people paying, I think Detroit versus San Antonio tickets without Wendy, $11 probably. They could probably like the Panthers tickets that
I
one
got I
game
got two
for
I got two
$4.
tickets for $8 a piece. You know, like but one that I just thought about that we didn't talk about. So let's get your thoughts on this one. Was Ben Simmons supposed to be the evolution of Lamar Odom?
That's a good one. I think that makes a lot of sense because who else do we compared to Lamar Odom? We were talking about it earlier. We said somebody else was Lamar
I
Odom.
don't
I knew I
remember.
should have wrote this note down.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
remember. But
but
yeah, I was thinking about it because he was actually running. Ben Simmons was actually running point. Like Lamar would lead the offense, but he wasn't the full time point guard.
yeah, I liked I like what the Lakers were able to do with Lamar because it was an advantage. Like I said, I'm watching the Laker game now. It's tie game 25-25 in the beginning of the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
It just worked because he was not only was he left-handed, he was 6'10", and he moved like a 6'7" small forward. The way he
Mm-hmm.
handled the ball, the way they trusted him with the ball. That's another piece. Like people got to trust you with the ball as well. I think Ben
Right.
Simmons was probably supposed to be that. I don't know where it went wrong for him. I don't know if he just like I don't know if the injuries really held him back that much, or if he just didn't love the basketball game. I can't speak to that, but he definitely
Mm-hmm.
had an opportunity to be like that next wave of guy because we talked about you know Grant Hill was that evolution of Jordan. I got this from Gilbert Arenas. Want to give him credit. Got off his podcast. He was talking about Scotty and Jordan. He was like, they were guarding guys, but they weren't guarding too many guys that were like them. Jordan wasn't guarding
Right.
a lot of guys that were shooters and guys who played above the rim. Either you were
It was
guarding a
like Clyde
shooter,
Drexler, and that was it.
yeah, you were guarding a guy who was a good shooter, or you had a guy that was an above the rim guy. Grant Hill was both. And he was that new wave that was coming in. So then when you had guys like Penny, and then now the transition to T Mac, where you had these 6'7" guards, like the new Magic. Magic was like, he was a slim guy, but as he got older, he kept his size on, but he used it as his
Right.
advantage because he's like, I'm 6'9". You play me with a 6'4" Hornacek, or even John Stockton with his intensity is like, I'm still 6'9". I'll go back to the basket at the 3-point line and see over you and orchestrate the offense from here, dribbling the ball in my right hand because he didn't really have a handle bag. But then you get a
Right.
guy like Anthony Hardaway, and it was like, you know what? Probably they were thinking like, all right, Jordan 6'6", 6'7", let's go. Jesus Christ, that's a charge. Um, LeBron doesn't get any charges called on him.
Never.
Shout out to the referees. But you had the bigger point guards, bigger ball handlers, where instead of just putting them near the paint, you start bringing them out more. So like I said, that's another Scottie Pippen effect. Is like Penny Hardaway, T Mac. Vince Carter was that evolution of that guy of Jordan, that above the rim guy, Kobe.
Mhm.
And then it just transitioned to you say you got a little bit of D Wade's that you felt like D Wade had that kind
Yeah,
of
just like
explosiveness.
more so from like the defensive standpoint too, because Kobe
Yeah,
obviously was the clone when it came to offense, the fade away, doing things with his tongue and all this
yeah.
crazy stuff.
Dwayne Wade was at the rim with it. Yeah, I think he
Yeah,
leads shot like two
yeah,
guards
he's the
all time in
all-time
shot
leader in
block.
block. Yeah,
Yeah, so he was
yeah.
that like that intensity. But like I said, that was evolution because Joe Dumars was a good defender, but he wasn't defending anything at the rim. They had guys down there for that. But as the game
Mhm.
changed and your big started to come out more, you had to get a lot of rotation help from because you're running out. like Dominique
Mhm.
Wilkins was listed as a 3, but he was basically a 2. So you're running out 3 of these guys. So Dwayne Wade has to defend the rim on that rotation. So I think he just started to enjoy like being able to sneak behind guys and get these blocks. But
So
that kind of
bring up
intensity.
talk about your Luca evolution. Like Dallas Mike will appreciate this.
Yo, so Luca, Paul Pierce, not they are not above the rim guys. Granted, Paul doesn't dribble the ball as much as Luca, but as far as that, give me the ball, get out the way, or give me the ball, get on my back. I'm gonna carry it to the promised land. And in the league where pretty much everybody guarding Paul Pierce probably had an athletic edge on him, but yet he still was hitting game winners. He still wanted the ball in the big moment. He still was able to get to the rim, even though he wasn't coming downhill as fast as a guy like John Wall or De'Aaron Fox or LeBron or even D Wade or Kobe on the break. Paul Pierce wasn't moving like that. Luca doesn't move like that, but you can't speed him up. He gets to his spot. He gets what he wants. He's good on the kick out. Good leader of his team. I think Luca is the evolution of like what Paul. He
So
just
do you
could.
think
He could
that
just. He could just. I think he passes the ball better than Paul, and he shoots more difficult shots than Paul. Paul Pierce didn't shoot a lot of difficult shots.
so
Luca shoots a lot of difficult shots.
the way that we linked Perkins to Wallace to Cat, do you think we can link Pierce to Harden to Luca?
Harden was more of a because Harden was athletic. I don't think people it didn't look like that because he shot a lot of threes. I think Harden is the evolution of D'Antoni's offense from Steve Nash.
Mhm.
I think if you had a guy like James Harden with that Phoenix team, with his ability to press the defense and get assists, because he was the point guard for the last couple of years and still led the league in scoring
Mhm.
in that D'Antoni offense. So it was that Steve Nash. He was unorthodox because it was unorthodox with Steve in Phoenix because they were trying to get the shot off with 17, 16, 15 seconds left in the shot clock. With James, it was everyone clear out. Now the guy who's the point guard is also one of the best scorers in the league and a willing passer, all wrapped into one. So for those
Mhm.
3 or 4 years in Houston with that D'Antoni, it just like I said, maybe he ran out of gas in the playoffs because they his usage rate. But while he was actively doing it, when he was putting up 60-point triple doubles, like Steve Nash was never going to put up a 60. Steve Nash got you 40 something points against, I believe, Dallas a couple times, or when he played for Dallas, that he got, he'd get you like 40 points, but he would only have like 4 or 5 assists.
And
James
that's
would
what you
get you,
want.
and that's what you want. James is like, cool, I'm gonna get this 60 because I'm hot, but I'm also gonna get Eric Gordon. I'm getting him 4 open looks from this corner.
Mhm.
Every opportunity I get, I'm getting an open look from this corner because if not, I'm taking to the rim and you can't guard me because I'm left-handed. There's not that many left-handed scorers in the league, so you can't really practice for it. He's big. Like James Harden was, I think he's what 6'6", 6'7". He's a big,
Yeah.
solid dude. So if he's running a point, who's guarding him? You don't have a wing defender out there on him because these other guys you got to guard the wing for the 3-pointer.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I
So
think
one that I was thinking of, um, it came to me because as we were talking in the first place, I had said like I just can't find something for Carmelo because like Carmelo was a unique player in a lot of ways. The way that he could dribble the ball but play in the post, and he was a monster on the boards too. He was like a complete basketball player that even from myself included probably doesn't get the credit that he deserves. But I was thinking about trying to place Carmelo, and I landed on Glenn Big Dog Robinson. Two dudes that never met a shot that they didn't like.
sure
That
did.
were they were big in the sense of big for their position because they were small forwards, but they were more
Power
stocky.
forward. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like a power forward and a small. They were like small forward height, but power forward weight. And but they were athletic enough that they were taking people off the dribble. They'll pull it up on you like a guard. They were still, get you a bunch of rebounds. They were just
Absolutely.
complete basketball players, and I think that
Excuse me.
Big Dog, just like Carmelo, I think Big Dog is another guy that people forget about because when you think about Milwaukee, I think Ray Allen comes to mind first.
Yes.
Even though it was Glenn Robinson's team first, and then Ray Allen came later and just kind of usurped him, if you will, surmounted him, if you will. But I think Carmelo and Glenn Robinson are one
Usurp
and
is
the
a good
same
word. I like
in
that.
a lot of ways. Yeah, I like that too. In a lot of ways, but on a much lower level, I was thinking about Muggsy Bogues and the new Isaiah Thomas, the Boston Celtic Isaiah Thomas. That little guy that put pressure on your defense, could hit shots, and you had to account for him.
Yeah. Prime reason why guys lobby to get their guaranteed money in their contracts without doing a team a favor because he was averaging 29 and a half points a game in
In the
MVP
MVP
race.
conversation. Mm-hmm.
Hurt his hip. They told him he's fine, keep playing. And
His
now
sister passed away.
the man was in the Drew League last year. That heartbreaking video of him crying, saying they get when he scored like 80 points or something like that in the Drew League game or one of those pro am games up in Seattle. Uh,
Uh-huh.
Victor Oladipo, another example, Dennis Shooter, like get that contract, get your money right. But like I said, the league it evolves and it's the era conversation is very difficult to hear because factually players have better technology to help them recover from surgery, from just playing. I mean, literally every private every private jet that these teams play on or fly on, they probably have one of those machines that the guys can put their legs in and get the massage or whatever while they're flying. They probably have massage chairs on some of these jets. They have trainers. I'm pretty sure they have an area where you can just get a massage and just recover on your way back home on the private jet. Whereas like back in the 80s, dudes were flying commercial. They in line
Mm-hmm.
with the same people trying to get home for Thanksgiving, trying to get on their plane for Delta, American Airlines, or TWA, one of these airlines that probably don't exist anymore. So,
Right.
it these guys are gonna shoot better, they're gonna dribble better, they're gonna have, their stats might be a little bit higher, but it's not a knock on the previous generation. I think basketball does it. They do a disservice by constantly saying, "Oh, this guy couldn't play in this era." It's like, well, no, he can't because we don't have time machines, so we don't need to even have this conversation. Just
Right.
admire the evolution of Oscar Robertson to Damian Lillard. Admire the
Oscar Robertson to
evolution
Russell Westbrook.
to Russell Westbrook. The the intensity that Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose played with from the point guard position, that explosiveness that we had
Derrick
never
Rose
seen
to
before.
Derrick Rose to John Morant.
Perfect. Nail on the head. So I know we're going to continue to have these debates in our sports groups and the memes are going to come out, but just sit back and have a real conversation about the sport and see that calling someone Barkley and saying like, "Hey, Zion is the new Barkley. He just doesn't rebound with the same intensity." But if Barkley could shoot the three the way that Zion did, he probably would have played more like Zion. So
Yeah,
it's just an
Zion's running
evolution.
point right now too.
Running point, big guy, portly guy, undersized, kind of heavy, playing out of position, high expectations. I mean, Barkley won an MVP.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Hall of Fame player. He won an MVP during Jordan's prime, so it wasn't as if he was playing against some bums when he got his MVP. Like he he was battling
Yeah, he
against
played against
some of the
Jordan in the
icons.
finals. He played against Jordan in the finals and had home court advantage.
Yeah, so it's like he played against icons. Zion can get to that point. We just, granted, we want to rush everything in this microwave instant gratification era, but we gotta start like really respecting the history of the sport that we play. I know, like I've been critical of guys, just from an analysis pundit standpoint. Two guys, two vets, no gimmicks, just trying to have a conversation. But some of these conversations are getting outrageous. Some of these comparisons are getting outrageous. Uh, like David Robinson, Tim Duncan. I saw that. I've never seen anyone compare David Robinson and Tim Duncan. I've not, like, to this day, till today, it's the first time I've ever seen anyone put it up there as a, I don't know if there's a showcase for even a debate where David Robinson was the bridge to Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan was the big man that was like, I'm gonna go super fundamental, but if you get out of position, I'm gonna dunk it on you.
David Robinson to Giannis.
I mean, like it's everywhere you look. If
I'm
you
trying to
really
find the
look
Tim
at
Duncan one, but I can't find it.
Wimby,
Maybe.
Wimby's
Well, I
very
would say
fundamental. He's
Wimby,
a European guy.
but he's probably
European
more
guy.
Kevin Durant though, in some ways, like the way in an actual play style.
I'm talking about like doing everything the right way. I guess there's a lot of Kevin Durant because Kevin Durant is a better defender than people give him credit for.
He definitely is.
Like he uses his length properly.
Yeah, just
Pause.
like I was trying to think about Devin Booker too, and I couldn't find a place for Devin Booker either.
Hold on, we might be able. Let's think. Devin Booker.
Because I know
Because
a
we
lot
got.
of people wanted to say he was the new Kobe, but I don't see that.
I don't see that. We know we got the Steph Mahmoud Abdul Rauf.
Yep,
So
Steph
that was the
Mahmoud
Steph
Abdul-Rose.
comparison, and obviously Dale
Yep.
Curry and Seth Curry. Um, Booker.
Like
Not
it's
Kevin
tough
Johnson.
because I just can't see it.
He's
And I was
unique because he's a mid range guy, so he has a very 90s style. So it has to be a
but
guy.
he's just faster and like he runs points sometimes.
Yeah, like we talked about. Blake Griffin was the Sean Kemp evolution. Trying to think.
Yeah,
Richard
it's tough.
Jefferson? No.
Like I was trying to find a Clyde Drexler too, but
That might be, well, Booker's not a high, not a
yeah, he's
good
not a high
dunker.
flyer though. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He
it
might
was
be
just hard. It was
yeah.
hard to find.
He might be one because he is a bit of an anomaly because he doesn't shoot a lot of threes. He chooses to shoot a lot of mid-range jumpers. I said, I think the mid-range jumper is probably I know analytically it's probably not the best. I just think you get the most space. I think
Like could Devin Booker be Mitch Richmond? He's not as big, like or not muscular, that's the wrong word. Like Mitch was a little stockier, like thicker,
yeah.
so to speak. Pause and all that. But like
we had the Chris Mullins comparison earlier too.
we did. We did have a Chris Mullin comparison, but I can't remember who it was.
I can't remember. Yeah, we were really on in the beginning. Yeah.
Oh, we were talking about white chocolate turning into Tyler Hero. And then Duncan Robinson being Mike Miller.
And then Dirk was Detlef Shrimp.
Yeah.
But also you said Chris Mullins.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And then now you got Porzingis, like that evolution of the tall guy. Doesn't play down low, but I think Dirk was a solid defender. Just like I said, same thing. He was a big body, he was tall, but he just was a great shooter. I think Porzingis is that evolution of that, like where you just a couple more inches.
Could Paul Gasol have been Tim Duncan? I mean, Tim's obviously better, but just I think Paul was more craftier with the ball.
Craftier with the ball. He could bring it up a little more, but I think the triangle made him play a little bit more like Tim because he got a lot of shots around the rim. Not many. I don't think they called many like plays where he was shooting like deep jumpers. It was a lot of like the ball was kind of moving. He was moving towards the rim. So I like that comparison. I like that Lamar Odom to Ben Simmons one was legit. We talked
Yeah,
about
that one I just
Embiid,
made up just now because I was just sitting here thinking
the
because I saw
Embiid
Dinwiddie and it made me think of Ben Simmons for some reason.
because
But
of Brooklyn.
yeah,
Then we
like it
had
just
the
made me
Patrick
think.
Ewing trip, to Embiid.
Patrick Ewing to Embiid. I know a lot of people like to compare Olajuwon to him because they're both African and everything, but I think that Embiid doesn't necessarily. He's not as graceful as Olajuwon was in some ways.
Correct.
So I think of him, as more Patrick Ewing. Um, Even though I'm sure more people will probably agree with the Olajuwon than the Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
Um, but I was also thinking, oh, I just thought about it. Remember,
What we got?
We were talking about Matumbo. Like, what do you do with Matumbo? But then we couldn't place Anthony Davis. Could Anthony Davis be the Matumbo
with
evolution?
the with the offensive package. He's a good shot blocker for we rag on Anthony Davis a lot because I think
Uh-huh.
he is in his own right very much a unicorn because not many guys because we talk about the guys who can guard him. Jokic can't really
Right.
guard him straight up. Uh Embiid maybe, but Embiid is there so much energy on the offensive end that I don't know if he really matches up that
Like
well
it's
as far
really
as
like Anthony Davis. Like the matchup is Anthony Davis versus Giannis. That's the matchup.
yeah, but Giannis just moves better than I think AD moves a little bit more lumbering, like a lighter version of Embiid. Embiid moves like a kind of like I mean he moves quick for a guy that big, but it's like
Mhm.
kind of like how LeBron moves. LeBron moves very aggressive, a lot of like shoulders into you, a lot of body moves, a lot of bully ball when he wants to.
So
When he's on the open
so
floor,
would it be blasphemous for me to say that Giannis is an evolution of LeBron?
no, I think because if you stretch them out, because in my mind, a lot of evolution is the players in the '90s weren't necessarily they were more like solid. Like Paul
Uh-huh.
George is 6'9". They got him listed 6'9", 240. Patrick Ewing was also 240, but he looked more like just like a big guy that played basketball versus well, LeBron, look, they got LeBron listed at 260, but if you look at him, you don't see a lot of body fat. So it's like the evolution of the muscles and how these guys put on muscles, how they carry their weight. So if you
Yeah.
stretch LeBron out a little bit, you do get that Giannis big body coming downhill. So yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, it just goes on and on because it's just like you're just watching basketball and, because like whenever we go to a draft or, you talk about a draft, that's what you do. You're like, hey, Drake May, I see Justin Herbert or I see, whoever, Andrew Luck, whoever, like, so that's what we're doing to some degree, except for these guys are in the league. So we're actualizing
Yeah,
what they have become.
yeah,
So
and I
like,
think and sometimes I think people they get a little too they take it too personal when you hear the comparison.
or
See
or could Chet Holmgren be Dirk?
that evolution,
Yeah, the Dirk with the defense, like the block shots.
the Dirk that can
He,
move.
yeah,
I,
like
I
because I
like I
mean,
like that. So that
yeah,
the
because like,
shrimp, the Dirk to Chet, that
yeah,
a couple of
because then you
inches because
do,
I think he's listed with 7'1".
I believe so. So now you do the Mavs and OKC ran into each other in the playoffs a few times. Durant versus Dirk, Wemby versus Chet. You know,
you gotta want to see it. You gotta want to look at it and say to yourself, like, yo, because we keep trying to figure out, because a lot of our conversation, like, what's wrong with the NBA, what's wrong with the NBA. I think it might be what's wrong with NBA fans. What's wrong with us? Are we not seeing it the same way? And I think having
well, no, there's
conversations.
definitely stuff wrong with the NBA. Like,
I honestly, it's. I think it's in a better spot than we give it credit for. I don't know
I
what
mean,
people
from
are
a business
expecting.
standpoint, definitely, but but the viewer experience for me, just for me, I can only speak for myself. The viewer experience for me isn't that great because it looks like teams take games off, or it looks, load management,
It's yeah,
like
it's not full intensity as much as
because
we.
we're wrong sometimes because we remember our era nostalgically, so we
Yes,
think that everybody was a certain way, but this era is not that way.
we
you,
think
you,
that big country and the Vancouver Grizzlies were out here balling every single night. We have no idea if their record was 20-62 or 30-52. We just remember the jerseys and you know Abdul
no, but
Sharik
then
and like these
but I
guys.
think that dudes were back then were more willing to try to do things like block your dunk, like so you get the highlight more, whereas now if somebody dunks on you, it's more like you were just standing there and you didn't get out the way in time
You just get
versus
out the net and inbound the ball. Well, I think
yeah,
they
yeah,
made the paint territorial. I think previous eras like that was a big deal. I
it was
remember
pride.
watching the 30 for 30. I believe it was a 30 for 30 documentary. When John Thompson told Patrick Ewing in the championship game,
Yeah.
"I want you to goaltend everything they put up. Nothing goes to the hoop." So like they treated that painted area like this is the line of demarcation. You do not come in here and have success. So he sacrificed like 12 points just to have Patrick Ewing jump as high as he
Mhm.
could. And so just so like the team could see like, yo, this dude is willing to go this far to block my shot. Let me not come down here.
Right.
That kind of thing. Whereas
Intimidation.
now it's like, oh, you get this dunk, watch me come down and get this three. I'm
Mhm.
gonna kill you analytically versus I'm gonna beat you physically. I think the teams when it gets down to April, the play in, the playoffs, second round, conference finals, like it's not about the three at that point. It's about physicality, and it catches players off guard. That's why the Lakers had so much success last year because they were just grabbing and grabbing and grabbing and grabbing and grabbing as much as they could until they got called, and then they would argue
Yeah.
it, and then they grab elbow, grab bite, kick, push, whatever they got to do. And it was like, listen, we all got 6 fouls each. We're gonna use all of them,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah, that's what it is. Like I
fundamentals.
talked about this, about how when you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, the LeBron the second time around, the refs would give them a little bit more leeway playing against Golden State than they would give other teams. Like other teams would get these touch fouls, and Cleveland was allowed to kind of bump them a little bit. Nothing egregious, but just
Yeah.
an extra bump, maybe an elbow as the shooter is going up, maybe a little elbow in your side, maybe
Did you
holding
see
on to a
Dylan Brooks the
jersey.
other day?
Uh-uh.
I guess the
I try
rule,
not
and
to
it's
look at
it's
him.
very close. You can on the release of the jump shot, if the ball is out, you're allowed to contact the hand. Like I think it's written in the rules where it's not a foul if the ball is like completely out of the shooter's hand. So he was just slapping people's hands, like just giving them high fives after every jump shot.
Right,
And it was
right.
like, you're teetering on a very like dangerous line, especially with these refs, because if they call it once, you're gonna argue it and they're gonna call it again. So he just was like literally just slapping high fives with guys.
Right.
LeBron is a bully. So yeah, it's just one of those things I just noticed. Like I said, I think the NBA. I don't know if it's in that. I know the All Star game was not watchable, but I was talking. I think I was talking to my son about it. I was like, if you just play to the intensity of where you play intense defense, and when the guy goes up for the shot, you just run past. You just do what they do when they play these pickup games in the summer. Like they defend, but on you when you if you get by them, if they work your move, they get by you. You don't try to intensely block the shot on the layup. You jump with them to try to get to the ball. You don't come down and like hit somebody's hand, but you're playing defense.
Right.
Those guys are all in there sweating. So I think that was one thing. But as far as like the league, I think they're doing all right considering the I know the pressure to be ready for April because that's when the
Well,
NBA.
I think
I know baseball's on, but NBA like the NBA, the top brass, they put on a show. They
well,
have
that's why
the
the
games
NBA is so
on.
confusing to me. That's why the NBA is so confusing to me because
They
the
probably
average
make way
player,
more money from April to June.
the average NBA player is better. So you got your top of the league, right? Your Magics, your Jordans, your LeBrons, your Giannis's, whatever. But the average player, like your DeMar DeRozan type player, is probably better than a lot of players at his position back then, like better than your Anthony Mason, somebody better than your maybe better than like your Cedric Sabalos, or somebody along those lines, but I don't know if I felt that the teams were more evenly matched, because like even though the Bulls did dominate, we talked about this, 5 out of their 6 finals were inches away from going 7. Whereas like obviously we have these teams like Golden State winning the finals in 5. Like we've seen sweeps and all this kind of stuff. So I feel like even though the player is better, it doesn't necessarily equate to a better on-court product unless we're just talking about the portion of the 80s where Kevin McHale and Bill Laimbeer were clotheslining people, trying to practice their WWE moves. But
Yeah, that
but
wasn't
it's
defense.
so
Everyone
maybe
keeps
the
saying they
90s.
played tough defense in the '80s. That's a foul. Even in the
So
'80s, it still
maybe
was a foul.
so maybe the 90s is the more apropos. In the early 2000s is the more apropos comparison, because like
Comparison
as I'm
window.
watching these players, yeah, because as I'm watching these players now, you can see how gifted they are and how talented they are. They're doing things that previous generations couldn't do. But I felt, and maybe I was a kid, I felt myself enjoying that. It just seemed the teams cared more. There were rivalries. We talked about this, Celtics versus Lakers, Bulls
But
versus Knicks was a big deal,
I think
whereas now,
that might be a byproduct of the amount of stuff that we can get at once. Keep in mind, I
right.
got my first TV I got for Christmas when I was 12. So I'm in 7th grade. I would watch either it was like I think college basketball came on probably Tuesday because we had Monday night football, like maybe Tuesday or Thursday with college basketball. So I'd watch college basketball. The football game, I get one game. I grew up in Virginia, so I probably was getting
It was getting Washington.
I was getting Redskins games every week, and then whatever was on Monday Night Football,
Mm-hmm.
and then the NBA, I got whatever came on. So I got a lot of Washington Bullets games. That was it. Like I got a lot of Charlotte Hornets games because I was close to Virginia, and then you had was it WGN? I was out of
Mm-hmm. The Bulls,
Chicago.
yeah, the White
I
Sox
get the
and
Bulls
everything, yeah.
games. TBS, I get a lot of Atlanta, like Atlanta baseball games. So
Mm-hmm.
I was only exposed to a select few games at a time. So my intensity into the game was higher. Now I got a game on iPad right now. We're doing a podcast. I got Netflix going in the background. I couldn't do all this when I was 13. Like I got
Right.
one option. I'm watching the game. That's it. There's no cell phone. I'm watching the game. I'm doing my homework with a pencil and a piece of paper. So I think
Right.
our focus was locked in more. Whereas now, because I can literally turn off this Laker game and turn on whatever game is on right now and forget all about the Laker game, and then later go to YouTube and watch the highlights for the second half of the game.
Mhm.
So I think it might be kind of hard to just kind of lock in that love and intensity. But
Right.
I think that's more of it, is the fact that you are exposed to more options all at once.
Mhm.
Like I could have watched a soccer game instead of watching these basketball games, where that might not have been an option when we were growing up.
Right.
But WGN was the move, because you get I get Cubs games. You didn't get any. I didn't get the Bears games. You didn't get football was pretty
Nah, I
much
didn't
locked
get the
in.
Bears on there, but
But it was
the
like
Bears came on enough.
I get that. I get Night Court. Remember Night Court?
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
get Night Court. So
Night
like,
court right into Cheers or something.
yeah. So
You
I
know,
like
like
WG. Yo, WG. I don't know how they got that deal, but that was the move. I'm glad they did, because other than that, like I said, I grew
it
up in
was like,
Virginia.
but you
I
know
wasn't
what?
gonna
Just to
get
top it
any.
off, just to top it off, before we get out of here, the Yes Network is the evolution of WGN.
Because now you get Yankees all the time. You don't have to be, yeah. But that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like I didn't even think about this growing up. Like, yo, how am I getting these cup games? Like, oh, this is out of Chicago. I never even knew
Mhm.
why I was getting that. Like, no matter where, because I lived in Northern Virginia for a while, and then we lived on the peninsula. And that was, like I said, that was a completely different thing, because we lived in Northern Virginia. You would get a little bit more influence out of Maryland. Uh, but then just being on the East Coast, obviously you get the Cowboys. Um, Early on in the 70s, you would get the Steelers. I have a couple of aunts that are Steelers fans, because they were on TV all the time. Family members that are
Mhm.
Cowboys fans, Redskins fans. Like that's the breakdown throughout my family. It's Cowboys, Pittsburgh. The Colts were in Baltimore, so my dad's a Colts fan. So just like that region, because that's all they got. And they got the popular teams that were Dallas and Pittsburgh throughout the 70s. And then you got the, Maryland teams, basically Washington. Virginia never had a team. Well, I mean, we had the Virginia Squires back in the day, but I wasn't around for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Shout out to Dr. J. You know what I'm saying? But
And
on
the
that note,
throwback to
yo,
make your grandma glance.
thanks for walking down memory lane with us. Sports Reports is ordered. Like, share,
Comment if
review,
you had
subscribe.
WGN.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, comment about your evolution theories and what player. It doesn't even have to be NBA, it could be NFL.
What
What
channel
player
you
do
watch
you
your
see?
sports on?
What channel you
With,
was watching your sports on with the antenna and the aluminum foil and all that? You know
if
what I'm
you ever
saying?
watch
Where
some
were
Monday Night
you?
Football on the black and white TV, holla at me.
Where were you when Michael Jordan won his first championship? You know
I was in Germany
what I'm saying? Where was grandma? You know what I'm saying? You might not want to know
at
the
the
answer to that
club.
question.
She was at the
Yeah, you
club
might not want to
wiggling.
know the answer to that one.
She was dancing,
But
doing the
y'all.
butt. Doing the butt. Ah,
Ow!
grandma was in there. Sexy, sexy.
But yo, he is the even killed Mr. Logical. I am the unorthodox 2-5. When our powers combine, we are sports reports as ordered.
Ordered.
But programming note, just one show this week. I'm gonna be out on Thursday. So we'll see you again next Monday. Until then, watch sports, love sports, love
Appreciate
people
support.
and use things. Peace.